All right, y'all. Here we go. We back looking at Torrence, aka Boosie chart. His birthday was yesterday, so we're gonna get a good look at his chart and give him some understanding of self and help you guys understand why he moves the way he moves. So let's get into this. When you look at, Boosie rising sign, you look at his rising sign and you can see clearly, he's a Sagittarius rising in his first house. The rising sign, for those of you guys who don't know, the rising sign is the sign that tells how the world perceives us. And it also tells us, our physical characteristics and the way that we present ourselves to the world and assert our soul's energy. It is how you personify your soul's energy and your drive and need, which are ruled by the sun and moon sign, respectively. In Boosie's first house, Neptune and Sagittarius. Neptune and Sagittarius in the first house, it tells you the brother has a big spiritual influence in his life. Neptune in your first house tells that you have psychic gifts. At ESP, you got the precognition where he talk about premonitions, seeing signs, getting messages in his dreams. These things are ruled by Neptune in your first house. This is a spiritual warrior because right next to that Neptune in his first house is Mars and Capricorn in his first house. Now, I myself have Mars and Capricorn in the first house also, so I understand how you can, be kind and loving and compassionate and still project that energy of coldness and callousness. Because you are a warrior, you have that warrior personality. But just because you have that warrior personality and you assert yourself in a cold and calculating way, because that's the nature of Capricorn, it doesn't mean that you always have to be on gangster shit. It means you're with it. You're with that shit, but it doesn't mean that you always have to be on it. And because his Mars in the first house is at 10 degrees Capricorn, and the moon in his 11th house is at 10 degrees Scorpio, it's easy. It's easy for him to continue to regress back into associating with the streets. I want to bounce over here to the 11th house. You see all these planets gathered up in his 11th house? This is called a stellium. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, I put a post up and explained to you about it the other day. Now, for him to have 5 planets in Scorpio, including his sun and moon, 5 planets in Scorpio, including his sun and moon, in the 11th house of socialization. Now, the 11th house, people say the 11th house friends, but 11th house friends are not always the type of friends that are going to be with you ride or die. The 11th house friends, for the most part, and I'm going to explain further in his chart, but for the most part, friends associated with the 11th house are friends that you go out, socialize, and kick it with, not motherfuckers who you would get life advice from. But when we look at Torrence's chart, when we look at Boosie chart, because that's what y'all know him by, so we're going to call him Boosie. I'd rather associate him with his higher self, that Neptune in the first house, Torrence, but y'all know him as Boosie, so we're going to call him, Boosie. Mercury in the 11th house of socialization in Scorpio rules his 7th house. The 7th house ain't just about your marriage partner. It's about all alliances and partnerships that you have, whether you're going to people for advice for business, relationship, marriage, your doctor, your lawyer. These are things that are ruled by the 7th house, partnerships which are trusted and you take advice from. When you look and find the ruler of the 7th and the 11th, he has a lot of friends that are really in the streets, and Scorpio rules that shit. Scorpio rules the street shit and the underground lifestyles and, sex and drugs and, things like this. The gangster shit is ruled by Scorpio and Pluto. Now, with all these planets here, this stellium in Scorpio, with his sun, moon, Mercury rules the thoughts and mind state. And they're all in Scorpio fixed signs. So it makes it extremely difficult for the brother to really step away from the lifestyle that he has become fixed in. Scorpio is a fixed sign. They, and all these planets in his social sphere and his stellium in Scorpio make it difficult for him to, transition from these, associations and relationships. But Scorpio also rules, funeral homes, morticians. It rules taxes. It rules, mortgage investors, loans, debt, hidden treasure. So just like he excels in connections with people in the street life, he could reach out to people in these industries and build strong relationships to help him evolve and grow. With the sun, your sun sign is a conscious projection of your soul's energy. And although Scorpio is a fixed sign, when you're dealing with the sun in Scorpio, it makes it hard for people to change because they want to understand. They need to understand in depth and know something all the way before they change. And that little aspect of uncertainty makes it difficult for people who have strong Scorpio placements to change behavioral patterns. And because his sun is in the 11th house of socialization and also the money he gets from his career, it's difficult for him to find a reason to change because it's not all bad. And it's not all bad. And he has an affinity for that lifestyle because it's comfortable for him. Fixed signs like consistency, what they're familiar with. We go to his moon sign, which is also in Scorpio. Now, the moon in Scorpio, the moon tells the drive and need. If the moon is in Scorpio, you don't have just the depth. People just get Scorpio, oh, that's sex and that's revenge and, that's jealousy. The dedication that comes from, the Scorpio sun, moon, and especially this stellium, the dedication and loyalty is to a fault. It's to a fault. And by the moon being his driving need, representing his soul's purpose in Scorpio, he clings to the streets, and that's not a bad thing. But he needs to understand that the sign of Scorpio is about transforming, not stagnating. Although Scorpio rules stagnation, because Scorpios tend to get into places and they don't want to get out of that shit because that's what they're familiar with and comfortable with. You look for a scorpion, it's hiding under a rock somewhere. But if you move his rock or try to reach under it, it'll sting your motherfucking ass. But that's just the lowest understanding of Scorpio energy. The snake is also part of Scorpio's energy. And I'm going in depth in Scorpio because he has this stellium right here with all these planets. So it's important that we understand the emphasis of how Scorpio's energy is working throughout his chart. Because every one of these planets rules running the house cusp in his chart. The sun rules the 9th house, the moon rules the 8th house, so on and so forth. So we have to take into account the importance of Scorpio and the energy that's working on this, brother, in order to really understand. The scorpion, and then it evolves, it transforms because that's a sign of transformation. It's a sign of power through transformation because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. When you go from the scorpion, you rise up to the level of the serpent. And when the serpent is ready to grow, it has to experience some discomfort to shed its skin. It goes and rubs its nose on the rock. It creates friction, which is uncomfortable. A lot of circumstances come into this brother's life that make him uncomfortable, but at the same time, he finds it difficult to change because so many people, as you can see, This stellium represents also figures, people association, because they rule houses, so it govern all the things, it governs all the things that these houses rule, are deeply rooted and important in his purpose. You can be connected to the streets and be a vehicle of transformation to get guys out of the streets. That transitioning, that evolution and growth is part of Scorpio's nature, because after the Scorpio, transforms from the scorpion to the serpent, it goes up to the phoenix or the eagle. It transcends the things that we just pay attention to on this low mundane level, on this physical level. The passions become beyond the passions of the body in the five senses. And that's when he really established himself and power in this world. When he can rise above the physical sensations and the expectations of other people. Because Scorpio on his 11th house, again, that's the money you get from your career. That's your social sphere, how you socialize, your hopes and wishes, what you like to do for, when you hang out. You got Scorpio on that 11th house, and the ruler is Pluto in the 10th house. Pluto is a planet of power, and it's in his career house, his purpose house. He's not going to find his true power till he starts teaching the community and the people in his social sphere to evolve and step their game up. His Pluto is conjunct his Saturn. Saturn rules boundaries and limitations, but in his chart, Saturn rules Capricorn on the second house of money and values and self-worth. Until he, learns some boundaries and limitations, he's never going to come to power, because right here in this 10th house, he's not going to come to the full potential of his power and his purpose, because Saturn is connected to Pluto. That puts restrictions and limitations, boundaries, requirements for you to gain this power, because it's a tremendous power. It is a fucking tremendous power, Jack. You look at his second house of money, value, self-worth, Saturn in the 10th house, he meant to do his thing, but he meant to do it for more than just what he's doing it for. You see Saturn and Pluto, they're 60 degrees away from this Neptune in the first house. The rap and the music in the streets, that's just a platform for this brother to really rise up and start guiding people the right way. But again, Neptune in the first house, everything ain't always what it appears. So people don't get to see his spiritual side too much. You look for Jupiter, the ruler of his first house, because Sagittarius on the first house cusp, it's in the sign of Scorpio. So a lot of the stuff that you guys are hearing, he keeps hidden and concealed. You have to be around him enough to peel off the layers and see what he's really about. Very spiritual brother. Very spiritual. Saturn and Pluto making that sextile to Neptune in his first house. Very spiritual, man. Very spiritual. And a lot of his success is connected to his faith. He explains his faith and through his understanding, but soon, he's growing. We see the progress. We see him talking about ancestors and hearing messages from Bleak. He's grown. It's inevitable. It's inevitable, because the transits, which we're going into second, are going to show you a lot of growth and change in his chart. When we look at, his third house, Aquarius on the third house, Uranus in the 12th house, he does a lot in secret for his community. A lot of charitable work and takes care of people and feels responsible for taking care of people. But more importantly, you see this void area? This represents the sign of Pisces being intercepted in his second and third house. The third house, it rules the mind. It rules communication, our early childhood environment. Pisces is ruled by Neptune in his first house. So he's not going to talk about his psychic experiences. He's not going to talk about his magical powers because he don't want people to think he crazy. But he got that shit. He got that shit, and he keeps it well concealed. He keeps it well concealed. Intercept means that that sign and planet's energy is boxed into your chart. But that sign still has a ruler, and it comes out. It sneaks out in certain ways that he projects his personality to the world. You know, because the Mars in Capricorn and Uranus is spontaneous communication. Uranus in the sign of Sagittarius, spontaneous and frank communication. He don't always watch what he say or take care to make sure when he says things that they aren't too offensive to other people. It come to his mind, he blurted out. Come to his mind, he blurted out. You know. It's good things. It's good things in his chart. You know, his North Node is in the sign of Cancer in his 7th house. That tells us that, you know, it's important that he learn in this lifetime the value of partnerships and nurturing relationships. You know, the North Node makes a wide trine, but still a trine to his moon, which rules the 8th house. The 8th house is the resources you get from others, other people's money, information you get from others, the resources of your partners and your spouses. So with this trine, it's important that the brother learn. It's important that he learn to really value the relationships that he had and not bulldoze over people like a psychopath. If you don't do what I say, how I say, or if it isn't how I feel it should be, I'm through fucking with you. And that breaks a lot of bonds for him because he learned to be the boss. You know, the North Node in Cancer means the South Node in Capricorn, you know, in his first house. So when the South Node in Capricorn in the first house, he tend to keep all those, you know, callous characteristics from the past life because the South Node tells what tools we bring in our life from our past life. So South Node in Capricorn, you know, he got that bossy air about himself and the ability to run roughshod over people. The North Node in Cancer is telling him, look, nigga, you got to learn in this life to value and nurture your partnerships and have compassion for the people that you have good, strong relationships with. Flat out. That's what the universe is requiring of this brother. And until he learns to do that, he's not going to be able to, you know, experience his full potential. And that's how the North Node energy works. And that's how Saturn works. The taskmasters and disciplinarians. Not for bad, but to keep you on track with your purpose. You know, we look at Bootsie's 9th house. A higher learning. You know, long distance travel, education. Leo. Through those travels, through publishing, because the 9th house rules publishing. It rules publishing. He has gained fame amongst his community because Leo is in the 11th house in the sign of Scorpio, and especially the streets. Everybody know. Boosie turned the streets out. He turned the rap industry out. Again, he has spiritual power. He really defined what raw was in the streets. He started flexing with the guns and the pictures and shit and the videos and, you know, really rawing the music out. He really brought the reality of his environment to the forefront of society. And in doing that, he created a situation where a lot of people aspire to be that. He enchanted a lot of people. You know? Leo on the 9th house has the power to make you be able to manifest very, very, very powerful manifestations, man. You have to watch your words. And again, you know, his sun and Jupiter are conjunct. His sun ruled the 8th house. You know, I mean, the ninth house, and the ninth house is like your wish house. And Jupiter rules his first house. This brother is a manifestation magnet. He just got character flaws like we all do. We all have character flaws. We all have an opportunity to learn our power and take advantage of it and use it to help ourselves and other people. He has some great opportunities to do that. But he has to be responsible. He has to be brave enough to make the changes necessary to step his game up for himself and the people that he love and value. Appreciate y'all tuning in to this reading for Boosie, aka Torrence the Titan. I expect some good things from him. We can look at his transits right quick. We look at his transits right quick. We see, Mars is going through that 11th house. So is the sun. So is Mercury. Pluto, is trying his Mercury. Just passed over the trine over his Venus. Saturn is making some squares. Jupiter and Saturn are making some squares to these planets, and that's demanding that he make change. But good thing right here, Jupiter, ruler of his first house, is about to trine Pluto. It's about to trine Pluto, and it's about to trine Saturn. He about to run it up, and he about to make some, have an opportunity to easily make some changes in how he moving. I would recommend, he really start vetting his social sphere and only keeping him around him the people that are trusted and essential until he figures out, the things that are most important for him. This right here, Venus conjunct Mars. Now, Venus rules this brother 5th house, and it rules the 6th house. Excuse me, please. My apologies. Again, the Venus conjunct Mars. Now, Mars rules his 2nd house of values and money. Venus conjunct Mars can bring a baby, or it can bring up issues in regards to your children. Because it, rules his 5th and 6th house, it may bring about issues of him working with his children and building their careers the right way. But definitely look for some good action, brother, because Venus conjunct Mars. Also be careful because Venus conjunct Mars brings pregnancies when Venus or Mars rules the 5th house. So you want to be careful. You want to be careful, man. And like I said, Mars rules your 4th house. Venus rules your 5th and 6th house. Your kids might be thinking about going out on their own, living on their own, getting their own place or whatever. But be cool about it. Don't be too bossy and over assertive. Like I say, big positive movement coming from Jupiter for you. But Saturn's about to hit your moon, bro. Then it's gonna hit you. Saturn finna be on your ass for the next 2 years, forcing you to change these things in your social sphere. And because it's making a square, if you refuse to change, it's not gonna turn out good for you. Squares demand change, so I hope you use this information wisely, bro, and other people can learn from it and learn to appreciate you for the person that you are. Peace.